blind man sat by the roadside begging. His name was Bartimaeus. A boy sat by the roadside crying. His name was Mikey. Some years ago, I was visiting Colonial Williamsburg, and as I was walking down the street with a sizable crowd, looking at all the historic sites, I passed a young boy who was crying. And as I walked on, I thought, well, he didn't get what he wanted, did he? Probably throwing a tantrum because his parents told him he couldn't have a piece of candy or something like that. Why don't they tell him to be quiet? But something didn't quite fit, so I turned and looked again. And there he sat all alone by the side of the road, just crying. And it hit me, he was all alone. There were no parents. So I turned around and went back and asked him if he needed some help. Mikey had been walking through Williamsburg with his father and his brother in and out of all those historic buildings. But at one point, Mikey had seen someone selling those tricorn hats that looked really cool. So he went down the street hoping to get one. But the guy selling the hats kept walking, and Mikey lost him in the crowd. And too late, he realized he didn't know how to get back to his father either. All he could do was sit by the roadside with his fists in his eyes like a blind beggar and cry for pity. While so many people like me wanted to rebuke him, telling him to be silent. But he just kept crying all the more, as if to say, have pity on me. Isn't it like that in our lives too? When the Father wants to lead us new places and guide us along the way, and we see something we think is so wonderful that we want to run off in the other direction. And in sin, we chase after the fun that doesn't last and the excitement that wasn't really so great after all, and the cheap imitation of love that was so false. And we end up with nothing but an illusion. And too late, we realize we can't see the way back to the Father. What can we do but sit by the side of the road and cry, I want to see? When you find yourself by that roadside, remember that the Father's love doesn't go away, even when we can't see Him, even when we can't figure out how to turn our lives around and get back to the Father. The Father's love is still seeking us out. Sometimes it takes someone else in the crowd to say, take courage, get up. Jesus is calling you. Sometimes it takes a priest to help us return to the Father, to help us confess our sins and open our eyes once again to see the Father's love. So I asked Mikey, when was the last time you saw your father? And he knew. He could point to the spot about a block away. He just needed someone to walk back there with him, back to that place where he had turned away. And you know what? His father was right there the whole time. And his father didn't yell at him when he came back. His father put his arms around him and comforted him. That's the same for our Father who is in heaven. When we confess our sins and walk back to that place where we got turned away and admit, I went down the wrong path because I wanted something that looked exciting at the time. Our Father doesn't yell at us. He puts His arms around us and welcomes us back with forgiveness. Jesus healed Bartimaeus. He helped him to see once again. He took this blind beggar sitting by the roadside and lifted him up, telling him, go your way. Don't sit there lost and confused. You have a direction now. And Bartimaeus followed Jesus on the way. And I'm pretty sure that Mikey stayed close to his father after finding him again. May you stay close to our Father, too.